Okay, so this is for anyone with a vagina who wants to learn how to do a kegel. This is how I teach it. You may have learned a different way. It's not to say that that way is right or wrong. This is just how I teach how to do a kegel. So first of all, it's important to visualize and understand the anatomy that you're trying to train here. So we're trying to isolate the muscles within the vagina and around the vagina. So you have your pelvic diaphragm, which sits at the base of your pelvis, and then you have your respiratory diaphragm here. I want you to visualize your pelvic diaphragm or your pelvic floor like a diamond. So at the top of the diamond you have your clitoris, and then right at the back end of the diamond you have your anus, and then right in the center you have your vaginal opening. So as you can see, just on the outside lines of where the vaginal opening is, it's going to come out to that outer point of the diamond. So that part of the diamond, excuse me, goes here, but that outer part connects to your inner thigh. So if you have tight inner thigh muscles, it can inhibit what you're trying to do, which is draw the muscles of the vagina in. So if you have tight inner thighs, it's important to release them first before trying to accomplish this. Okay, so we're going to break it down into steps, and our step one is to initiate your kegel always on the exhale. And the reason why we do this is because your pelvic diaphragm, which sits at the bottom, should mimic your respiratory diaphragm. So when we exhale, our respiratory diaphragm is going to relax up, and our pelvic diaphragm should mimic that movement by coming up with it as well. And what we're trying to do is lift the pelvic diaphragm or the pelvic muscles up and in. So that's why we do it on an exhale. So you start by inhaling through your nose, and then as you exhale, step one, initiate by lightly blocking your back passage or your anus. So what that means is, if you imagine that you're in a public space and you've got tight white pants on, everyone's behind you and they're all looking at your ass, and you need to do a fart, but you don't want to do that because you're in a public space, but you can't clench your butt cheeks together because you have tight white pants on and everyone's looking at your butt, remember? So you can lightly block your back passage to stop yourself from passing gas. So that's step one. And you've got to time it in sync with your exhalation. So inhale to prepare, exhale, lightly block your back passage. Now what that does there, remember the back passage is at the back of that diamond. It's going to start to initiate the muscles of the anal sphincter and around the back side of your pelvic diaphragm. So then that brings us to step two, breaking it down into steps, remember? So step one, inhale, exhale. On your exhalation, start to lightly block your back passage. Step two, now feel all 4 points of that diamond draw into the center. The center is your vaginal opening. Now imagine that you have a tampon inside your vagina and you're trying to squeeze your muscles around the tampon. So this is step two. So put it together. Inhale. On your exhale, start to lightly block your back passage. Feel all 4 points of the diamond come into the center. Center being the vaginal passage, and there's a tampon in there which you're trying to squeeze. Okay, so you're just squeezing that tampon at this stage. You're not allowed to squeeze your butt cheeks, clench your butt cheeks. So keep thinking back to phase one. People behind you, they're looking at your butt. You can't squeeze your actual glutes together. You're just squeezing the internal muscles of your pelvic floor. Step three, grab the tampon and bring the tampon up to the top of the vaginal canal. So put it together. Inhale, exhale, start to lightly block the back passage. Feel all 4 points of the diamond come into the center. Center being the vaginal passage. Imagine you have a tampon there. Squeeze around the tampon with your muscles. Now draw that tampon up into the vaginal canal. So this is where some people get a little bit lost. You might be able to squeeze the tampon, but you might feel like you can't quite grip it and bring it up. This can be because it's just new, it's technique, your brain and your body aren't quite talking to each other and it just needs to learn the movement pattern. It can be that you have weakness within your vaginal muscles. It can be that you have tears or trauma from giving birth that you aren't aware of, which make your muscles, especially if you have tears, it's harder to get the other muscles that are there still working and functioning well to grip around the tampon and lift it up. It's going to take a little bit longer for those people to learn. But practice makes perfect. So when you do grip the tampon and you bring it up, another thing that can happen is you don't know how high up to bring it. You basically try to bring it up as high as you can. It's going to reach a ceiling point because you've got your cervix and then you have your uterus obviously as well, and then we transfer into other parts of the body. So you're gripping the tampon, you're bringing it up high inside the vagina, just as high as you can. It's going to reach a ceiling point at some point. Then step 4 is to, don't worry if you can't even get to step 4 today. Sometimes that takes a little bit of time to learn, but step 4 is to grab the tampon, bring it up inside the vaginal canal, and then try to keep it at the top of the vaginal canal. So this takes a little bit of skill, strength, and time and patience for a lot of people to achieve. What you might find is that you can grip the tampon, you can bring the tampon up, but you can't quite keep it there and you're sort of playing tug of war with the tampon. That's okay. If you feel like you are starting to lose the battle there, just relax your muscles and let them come back down. Take a few breaths and then try again. Okay, so step 5 of the process is to completely let go and allow your tampon to drop back down where it came from, and then allow all 4 points of that diamond to relax and stretch back up to where they came from. So if you go back to the diamond, it should stretch all the way back out, or relax all the way back out, I should say, to that full diamond. If you subconsciously hold tension there, we're not getting the full relax and contract motion of the muscle, which we need for a strong and functional muscle. So it's important to completely let go and then have a few breaths before you try your next kegel. So in terms of the types of kegels, that would be what we'd call a long hold or a long draw. You can try that with just to say 50% amount of strength, and you could also try it with a maximal amount of strength and trying to really squeeze as hard as you could. Obviously, if you're squeezing as hard as you can, you're not going to be able to sustain that contraction for as long as you would with a contraction where you're only exerting 50% strength of the muscle. But both are important because our pelvic floor is going to be tested in many different scenarios, and so you should be able to, excuse that, that's my child. You should be able to control your muscles in all kinds of environments. So the other type of hold that you would have is what we call a quick flick. So that is essentially just the gripping of the tampon and letting it go. It's not gripping the tampon, bringing it all the way up, holding it there. All you're doing is gripping the tampon, letting it go, gripping the tampon, letting it go. We still want to try to train the pelvic floor to be always in sync with our breath and our respiratory diaphragm. So you would do that in short bursts of say 10 reps along with your exhale. So, and in terms of the speed, it's going to depend on the person and their strength and how experienced they are in working with their pelvic floor muscles. So you could, for example, be like this: inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So for 10 reps, and then you'd let it go and you'd have a few normal breaths and then you'd go back into another set. Other people might train themselves to be able to do that with full control and do that a little bit quicker. As long as you have control, that's the main thing, is what I'm trying to say. Don't try to worry too much about the speed. And both styles of kegels are important. So the quick flicks, for example, in a real life scenario, if you were to sneeze or cough, you would do a quick flick to quickly contract the pelvic floor muscles to give yourself some support from below. And then with the long holds, that would be more for, say, a core exercise or extending the leg away from the body. You'd be doing a long draw up of the pelvic floor. So I hope this video was useful to you, and I've sped through it because we're on a time crunch. Usually I'd spend a good 45 minutes with someone, slowly getting them to this point, but obviously we're in a time crunch here. So practice makes perfect, and just remember that if your brain and your body are having a moment of stress or frustration because you're not quite picking it up, then if you try to persevere with that through the frustration without calming down your mind, you're going to send some frayed and stressful signals from your mind to your body, and then your body is going to reciprocate that message. So it's important to remember that sometimes it's not going to work, and you just break that neural connection between your mind and your body. Go away, do something else, come back a couple minutes later and try it again. You'll find that some days your pelvic floor and your mind just work beautifully together, and then other days you just can't get it going. Sometimes you just need a break, come back. Some days you might need a few hours of a break, and then it will just start to happen for you. So that's all part of the parcel. And the other thing to note is that doing Kegels isn't recommended for absolutely everybody. If you suffer from pain within the pelvic floor, pain with intercourse, pain with defecation, pain with urination, pain with sex, did I say that? I think I did. Pain with speculum exams, putting in a tampon, anything like that, or tailbone pain is another one, then there is a chance that you could be overactive or tight within your pelvic floor already, which could be causing the pain. And if you just go away and Kegel till the cows come home, you can exacerbate that condition. So if that is you, it's important to go and see a pelvic floor physical therapist for a proper internal exam and get yourself checked out. Otherwise, if there's no pain and you feel like you're doing a great job, then try and do this and implement that into your routine going forward.